Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. Hello, welcome. Welcome into the chat. We've got Gareth T in there. We've got Billy Kershaw. We've got Martin. We've got Russell Cannon. We've got Alex French. And we've got Mike Dix. Hi, Mike. How you doing, mate? How do you know you're not still in the dream, Martin? Well, you just don't. You just, everything we are and everything we seem is but a dream within a dream. Anyway, listen, it is Friday. It's Friday today. I know it's Twixmas, so we're all getting a bit mixed up on what day it is, but it is Friday, and it is the 27th of December, 2024. Well done on making it this far through the year. Morning, Graham, says Sarah. Morning, Sarah. How you doing? I hope you're having a pleasant morning so far. It's a bit foggy here in Old Durham. And I was going to say that if you'd like to join our lovely people in the chat here, and oh, lovely, just press the subscribe button and wait for a minute, and then you will be ushered into the world of being able to say things, and it will come up on the screen. So don't say naughty things, or bad things, or bullying things, or things that aren't very nice. Let's talk about the topic today is the baby boom, the new baby boom for rich people. Not for the rest of us. Someone made a really good point in a YouTube video, and I was hoping to get the URL for it so I could link it into this video. I will try and get it for you, and I'll link it in the description afterwards, if I can. And it was this. In developing nations, having a child is an asset. Quite simply put, like most of the work, most people doing work in Ethiopia, for example, are under the age of 18. The majority of people working in Ethiopia right now are under the age of 18. So you have a lot of kids doing work. It might be working in the dad's shop, or it might be, helping out on the farm, or it might be something else, right? Generally speaking, having children in these developing nations, after a few years, they start paying for themselves. Whereas in the UK and the US and other developed nations, Japan, South Korea, it's the absolute opposite of that. A child is a financial drain. And there's a bit of flexing in this that the rich are saying, well, I've got 17 children. The Rees-Moggs, the Elon Musks, the Donald Trumps of this world, the Boris Johnsons. They are not just feckless lunatics, but they have children as a status symbol because they can afford them. And the sad reality is that in this country, if you want kids and you want to work full time and you have to pay for the nursery fees, the fees are absolutely extortionate. And you have people on what's considered the average income in this country not being able to basically, afford children anymore. It used to be the fact that even the poorest people in society could afford to have children. But now they can't. And you'd think that the likes of Musk and Thiel, all these horrible little bastards that are out there, peddling their misinformation. Joe Rogan, the Pied Piper of Hamilton, the Pied Piper of Bollockton, the modern Lord, the Lord Haw of modern times. Joe Rogan is, all talking about this problem, this issue, that the fact that people in the West are not having as many children as they used to, which is true, but also it affects people in the East as well. They've got a very low fertility rate in countries like Japan and South Korea. So it's not just the UK and the US. Even China is seeing, its fertility rate has gone down because they had the one-child policy for many years. And in some respects, this is a very good thing because 8 billion is about the limit that the world can take. We're obviously trashing the planet at an absolutely cataclysmic rate at the moment. I'm 45 years old, and in my lifetime, 75% of the greenhouse gases that are currently in the atmosphere were put in the atmosphere. And all my life, since 1979, they have known. At least the oil companies have known, and then NASA found out a few years later because the oil companies didn't share the data, but they've known that the Earth is getting warmer, and it's getting warmer because we are putting more energy into it from the sun, and that energy is not getting out because of the greenhouse effect with greenhouse gases. Same as your greenhouse. That's why it's called the greenhouse effect. And yes, it's becoming more energetic. It's probably a better way of putting it than global warming, because warming sounds nice. Warming sounds nice and cuddly and friendly. This isn't. This is the equivalent of a nuclear bomb going off every second of every day since the fucking Middle Ages. That's how much extra energy we're putting into our system as a result of this. And so, yeah, there is an argument to say, well, look, it's no good us all having loads of kids, because this is what's happening. The population is doubling every X many years, every 30 years or so. And it's 8 billion at the moment. If you go up to 16 billion, we don't have the resources. I don't get all Malthusian on you. But we'll probably be all right till about 10 billion. But after that, we're in trouble. We are in troubling territory, in troubling lands. So why then do the likes of Elon Musk, why are they running around telling rich people? And there's a whole agenda in America, especially with these evangelical Christian far-right fascist scum who are saying, we have loads of kids. We've got 17 children. And the reason being is not just that it's a flex, but they see what's happening in that the birth rate in developing nations is staying, fairly close to what it was, whereas the birth rate in developed nations has gone off a cliff, right? And their problem with that isn't that there are going to be no children in the future, because of course there will be. Their problem with that is the children in the future, not all of them are going to be white. And that's it. It's pure racism. It's pure fascism. It's pure eugenics, for want of a better word. It is eugenics. It's the idea that we need to breed more white people because white people are best at everything. And demonstrably through history, we've proven that's not true. I think we might have a larger proportion of psychopaths amongst what we call Caucasian people. I find the term Caucasian a bit of an insult. I mean, the whole idea of being white is ridiculous anyway. It was a term made up to differentiate Europeans from people they could enslave or use as indentured labourers. Or, I'm not supposed to use the Irish for indentured labouring. So, yeah, that doesn't even cover that. It was just a racist term made up for just an arbitrary classification of people. Which you could make it about hair colour, because people from northern climes tend to be ginger or blonde more than people from southern climes. It doesn't have to be your skin colour. It could be your hair colour. It could be running around going, oh, everyone with dark hair, yeah, they're inferior because of, genetics or something. No. The reason why empires rose in Europe readily and then went off around the world was just a fluke. It was just an absolute fluke, because don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There was a Japanese empire. There was a Chinese empire. China back, 2,000 years ago was bigger than the whole of Europe. I mean, come on. Like the in terms of population and size, there was the Inca Empire. There was the Aztec Empire. There was the Mayan Empire. There were other empires out there. And there were empires in Africa as well, the Benin Kingdom in Africa, from which we stole the Benin bronzes. These empires existed. Ethiopia was famously the only country in the whole of Africa that wasn't colonized. It was invaded during World War II, but it wasn't colonized, not like the rest of them. And there's castles. If you go up to Gondar, like Gondor in Lord of the Rings, there's a place in northern Ethiopia called Gondar, and there's a castle. There's a castle there. It's hundreds and hundreds of years old because they needs to build a castle. And people go, oh, people in Africa don't have castles. Yes, they do. They have castles, and they have Christmas, and they have all this. If they're a Christian country like Ethiopia, they have Christmas. It's not on Christmas Day. It's on January the 7th. So, the whole Feed the World song is a bit out of touch with that. But never mind. This whole idea of rich people having loads of kids, not only is it a flex, not only is it racist, but it's also this thing of like, we need more rich people because rich people are better at everything. More rich white people because they're better at everything. And that's really, really disturbing. And the frustrating thing about this, and come into the chat and let me know your experiences, the world that the likes of Johnson and Rees-Mogg and what's his name, Elon Musk, the world that they have created, Jeff Bezos, all that lot, is one in which it is financially ruinous for most of us, for the majority of the population. It is now financially ruinous to have kids. I can't afford to have kids. I just can't, You're very generous with your super chats, and, YouTube gives us a couple of quid for every video that I put on here. Literally a couple of quid. But realistically, it would be irresponsible of me to bring children into the world because I can't afford to pay to look after them. I just can't. And you could say, well, Graham, you could get a proper job. Okay, yeah, I could, but would that still pay enough to have kids? Because it costs more than the average wage to look after children. And I don't want to have kids that I can't look after, obviously, because that would be irresponsible. That would be an irresponsible thing to do. So these millionaires and billionaires have created the environment in which people are like, I would like to have kids. And to be, absolutely clear, I would like to have my own kids. 90% of the population of this country would like to have kids. 90% would like, I think it's 87%. Let's get really accurate here. 87% of the population would like to have kids. And when they are asked why they are not having kids, the number one reason is money. That's it, money. It's the money, stupid. It costs too much. If we're in a developing nation, a child will be an asset. You wait till they're 7 years old, you can send them down the mine or up a chimney or whatever, get them working. Get some money on the table. Whereas in a developed nation where children are not allowed to work, for obvious reasons, I'm not saying that we should bring back child labour, by the way, but they are a liability. In one country, they're an asset. In another country, they are a liability. And we live in a liability country. And so do the people in America, and so do the people in China and South Korea. And this has got creating lots of also unpleasant knock-on effects as well. And also, you've got this, at the same time, you've got this whole incel movement who blame women for everything. It's deeply, deeply misogynistic movement. And they see women as breeding machines. They've got this old-fashioned notion. Well, I say old-fashioned. Like, this was old-fashioned in the olden days, this notion that women shouldn't be allowed to do anything or make anything of their lives. All through history, women have made things of their lives. There have been women scientists, there have been women entrepreneurs, there have been women politicians when they're allowed to be politicians. And don't forget, there's been women queens, quite a few of them. Most of you watching this, in fact, all of you watching this, every single one of you from Britain grew up under a queen, under a woman as head of state. It's possible. It's doable. You look back to the age of Victoria, it's celebrated by the Gam-Gams. They think that the Victoriana stuff is amazing. And the British Empire, which was built pretty much under, expanded as it was into Africa and other places, the whole of India, that was under Queen Victoria's rule. And then you had Queen Elizabeth, the golden era, the golden age of Shakespeare under Elizabeth. I mean, this is... And then you've got the female scientists throughout history who were just ignored because they came up with ideas and no one wanted to listen to them. And then the research paper was written by the person who, was in charge of their PhD, and their name went on it, but not the woman's name. The only reason why Marie Curie got the Nobel Prize is because Pierre, her husband, refused to take his prize unless she got the prize as well. And she's won it twice. She won it for physics and for chemistry. Absolutely remarkable. And there's been, female scientists, women scientists throughout history. So even back in the day, the idea, someone's sitting in the fucking local tavern going, yeah, women are just good for babies. That's all they're good for. They can't do anything else. They should just sit at home and have babies. It's bullshit. Women even, back in the days of peasants and the Lord of the Manor, not that we've moved on too far since then, from that, even in those days, women would routinely help out. They would be running farms. They would be working in fields. They would be working in India. You'd have women working on tree plantations. It wasn't like only men could do this stuff. And the idea that women just stayed at home and cooked and had babies, It never happened, and it still doesn't happen to this day, really. You travel through West Africa, for instance, you will see women waiting, early in the morning, as soon as the sun comes up, selling stuff at the side of the road with a baby on their back. They're working. They're not just sitting at home, watching bloody Bullseye with the baby. They're working. They're up, and that's it. And that's in a developing nation. So, yeah, we have this, this kind of meeting of these ridiculous notions where at one point people have gone, oh no, we're not having enough babies. And you point to the birth statistics for the world, and we go, but there's 8 billion people on the planet. And they're like, yeah, but, we're not having enough babies. Wink, wink. You know what they mean. I know what they mean. There's not enough white babies. That's what they mean. That's what they mean. And the reason why I don't like being called Caucasian is because I've been to the Caucasus and everyone down there looks a bit like, I probably shouldn't sound a bit racist saying this, but they all look like Noel Gallagher. They've all got really thick, dark eyebrows and really thick beards, black beards like Bluto from Popeye. I don't look like that. So why are you lumping me in with these people? Like, I just find it really weird and arbitrary and horrible, and I wish they would stop doing it. And when people go, all these people, they want to be called Irish American and African American and this American and that. I'm like, great, good. If that's how they want to describe their heritage, great. I'd rather we did that than use terms like white or black or brown, because they're really, really unhelpful terms to use. You can be black and from Britain. You don't need to be from Africa. You can be Chinese looking and from Britain or America. You don't have to be from China. You can be Indian and from examples. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we need to reassess the way that we term these things. And white British really gets my back up when it's on a form and I have to fill it out. If someone wants my ethnicity, can I just say I'm Scouse? Can I say I'm Scouse? Is that okay? I mean, I feel like this is like special pleading or something, because my white race have not been historically persecuted and demonized by another group in the way that people from Africa have. Enslaved, in fact, people in India have. So by Whitey. So yeah, I special pleading here. I just wanted to make the case for maybe allowing us to put whatever ethnicity we want. I'm sure lots of people from Yorkshire will put Yorkshire down as their ethnicity, wouldn't they? They would. They would. But good, because then anyone from any ethnicity can be Yorkshire, I suppose. Okay, Witchy Goth. That song is so depressing. Snow in Africa in December, Changing Chimes of Doom, not a happy song. There is snow in Africa in December on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, usually. Di, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. My contribution to you for a leaky Tom, says Di. Thank you very much, sir. That's very kind of you. And then Gareth T, £5 super chat. That's also very kind. The household division of the army are still using regulations brought in by Queen Victoria under the pretext of tradition. I call it bullshit. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Gareth T, for that super chat. Rosalind Franklin, that's from Di, talking about the structure of DNA, which apparently was Crick and Watson, but obviously it was actually Rosalind who photographed. They took her photograph, went, oh, look, it's a double helix. And it was her who successfully first photographed DNA. But women did all the programming for NASA to put men on the moon. They did. There's a really good movie about that called Hidden Figures, which is worth watching. Black women doing the calculations that put man on the moon. And they weren't allowed to use the same toilet as everyone else. Yeah. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that people want these days? For a put upon minority to have to use a different toilet and have to walk an extra, 2 kilometers just to go for a piss. Can anyone draw some parallels there? Because, it was wrong then, and it's kind of wrong now. There's a woman called Madame Duchal back in the past. This is in the 1700s. And she was, I want to say she was Voltaire's lover, but she wasn't. Voltaire was her lover. She was married at the time, but the guy didn't seem to be too interested in her. So she had all these affairs. But she was a brilliant scientist. She had a brilliant mathematical mind. And she translated Isaac Newton's Principia. She translated it from Latin, because he wrote it in Latin because he's a show-off, into French. And along the way, she corrected some of his sums. She corrected some of his equations. Like, she corrected Newton. And these women of science have been kind of forgotten. People have heard of Isaac Newton, but they're not necessarily heard of Madame Duchal. But yes, please don't make the culture war a class war. Indeed. The establishment hate the working class, says Diz. Yes. Is it wrong if I say I'm Welsh first, British second, says Sarah? No. This is it. This is with identity. I think it's so important that we respect however people want to describe themselves, if it's themselves. Like, what are you comfortable with describing yourself as? I will grit my teeth and tick the white British box if I have to. I don't want to take a Caucasian box. I'm not from Georgia or Azerbaijan or Armenia. I'm not from the Caucasus. What were you talking about? I don't look like I'm from the Caucasus. My heritage is obviously Celtic. So, but judging by me colouring, I've not done, any DNA tests or anything. But you could probably put a punt on thinking that, I've got some Irish in me somewhere. But yeah, or Scottish. Scottish first name, English middle name, and like a Welsh surname for me. And I was born in Britain. Well, actually, no, my middle name is David because the day after I was born was St. David's Day, which is the patron saint of Wales. So yeah, Welsh middle name, Welsh surname. But there you go. Born in Britain, Irish blood. I am me, says Plumduff. Yeah. So if people want to describe themselves in a certain way, I think that opportunity should be there. Now, this presents problems for people putting together surveys and equality. What's it called when you have a piece of paper when you go for a job or something, and they have to make sure that everyone's being treated equally. I get why we do that, and categorizing people into Black and Asian minority ethnic groupings does help in that respect. But being able to say you have a form and you say tick this if you consider yourself part of this umbrella group, and then tell us, exactly which part of that group you feel like you belong. And, you might get someone like Kamala Harris, who had Indian and Black heritage, which blew Trump's mind. He couldn't understand how that could possibly exist in one person. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think that we could do with that. But also, on those forms, you know what else we need? We need to have whether the mummy and daddy paid for your education or not. That's what we need on those forms, because we need to have some kind of proportional representation when it comes to the workforce in the top jobs in this country, which 93% of them are taken up by the 7% who went to private school. And if you don't believe me, still go to privateschoolmafia.com. Just please go there, check it out. I'm not making this shit up. Okay, I'm a 20th century human surviving in the 21st. Andreas says identity is in layers. Some prefer to wear sexy underwear above the winter coat, and that's okay. Yeah, it is. I never tick the box. I don't want a box, says Captain. Yeah, I get that as well. Great, my middle name is David as well. Great, good, solid middle name. It's Gareth. And your father was an average fighter, but he was a brilliant scientist. Yes. And then Siska Knight saying, in Finland, there was some strong data on how much birth rate correlates with the father's income. The UK should do some similar analysis. We're going to jump into the papers in a moment, but before we do, yes, absolutely. And also, let me just say, the government should be doing stuff. I know they're bringing in this nursery places for kids, but we need to be doing more. We need to really be reconfiguring the way that we model our society. Less individualism, because one of the casualties of individualism is family. Like, it's very, very difficult to have a family now because of the rise of individualism. And we talk, I know I do this as well, left wing and right wing. We talk about this a lot. But when it comes down to it, it is very much individualistic collective, right? So you've got people who, like myself, think that we should all be like the Borg and all think the same way. No, I'm joking. We've got people who believe that we should work together for a common goal, whereas you've got the people on the other side who think that people should take responsibility for their own situations in life. So because of their economic situation and because of their metabolism, they should why aren't you rich and skinny like me? And it's like, well, I'm sure if they had your metabolism and had the, daddy pay for everything, then yeah, I'm sure they would have done all right as well. It's one of the reasons why there's so few African billionaires. It's not from the lack of entrepreneurial spirit in Africa. Entrepreneurial spirit in Africa is well and truly, I mean, it puts ours to shame, put it that way. But the intergenerational wealth is not there, because until a few generations ago, people in Africa were treated as slaves or serfs or just people who didn't deserve education or be able to, defend themselves in court, etc. So yeah, it's moving away from that individualistic thing. And also, yeah, if you wanted to have it on a timeline, or not a timeline, what's it called? Left and right wing, right? If you go far enough left, you get pretty fash, right? You do. You just get really fash. You look at like Stalin or Mao Zedong, they ended up becoming pretty fash. And then if you get really, really right wing, you get more commie. You get more like everyone should be the same. All the buildings should look the same. All the people should dress the same. Here's your uniform. Wear the uniform. I want you to all look the same. So it's not useful to talk about left wing and right wing. But what is more useful is this, because this is kind of, when I was talking the other day about how people on the right tend to be lazy, and that's a good argument. You don't call people stupid because there's nothing they can do about that. People who are stupid just are. I mean, you can try and inform them, but if they're stupid, they can't process the information that you're giving them. They're stupid. But what people can do something about is laziness. And when you point out that they're lazy, I think that's a much more effective way of dealing with these knobheads, to say, stop being so lazy. Why are you so lazy? Why are you getting the Daily Mail to do your thinking for you? Why are you getting Rupert Murdoch to tell you what to think, or Elon Musk or Joe Rogan or whichever knobhead, celebrity they've fallen in love with? Why are you letting them do your thinking for you? Are you so lazy that you can't think for yourself? But also, there's the empathy gap. And this is something that I think that we should make more of, is the fact that there are people who care about everything, about you, about me, about the planet, about each other, about our country, about the future. And then there's the people who don't. They have no empathy. They care about themselves because selfishly, they want the best for them. So any kind of thing that is tied into them individually, and their identity, if they think that they're more British than British, then anything that is negatively said about Britain, that they see that as personal insult, and they lack empathy. And it's interesting the way that whenever you get the right wing fashion anywhere, the first thing they try and do is burn the books, because described very well by James O'Brien as books are empathy machines. Like, you read a book, you feel for the characters in the book. You walk in someone else's shoes for a little while. And it's why the fash hate books. They hate reading. It's why you'll look at Nadine Dorothy's bookshelves and they're empty. This is someone who apparently writes books, right? And her bookshelves are empty. All right, Nadine. Unbelievable. But yeah, so I think that like left and right wing aren't particularly helpful labels. They're a good shortcut because they allow us to know what we're talking about. But I tend to find that people on the right tend to be the people who are less empathetic. They are lazier in general because they just can't be asked. They can't be asked, thinking for themselves. But with the empathy comes that whole selfishness of like the individualistic nature, the lack of empathy, I should say, comes with that individualistic nature of like, well, you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I succeeded despite X, Y, Z. And, the reality is that if your parents are minted and you went to a private school and you did all right, chances are your life wasn't that hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know you probably made some bad decisions in your life. Oh, everyone does. But come on, really? And if you were born filthy rich and you had an addiction to heroin or something and you overcame it and still managed to make it, bully for you. But I tell you this now, if someone who didn't go to private school was addicted to heroin and presenting TV shows on MTV like Davina McCall was in the 1990s. She went to private school, obviously, because she overcame her heroin addiction, and then she's the queen of Big Brother. Similarly, was it Richard Bacon, who was I don't want to cast aspersions in case it wasn't Richard Bacon, but I've got a feeling it was, who was working for, also privately educated. There's two Richard Bacons on my bloody list. Two different. There's a politician and there's a presenter. Blue Peter presenter got caught snorting cocaine, and he got more work, didn't he? Yeah, that's all right, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, moving on. Right, the way I see it, every increase in the cost of living is paid for by business in higher wages and less consumer demand. Rees-Mogg laying down in Parliament. Never forget that hypocrite. He is an absolute scumbag. Yes, he is. Last sentence I wrote Anglo-European. Saw it was street and postcode sort of thing. Says Blue Badger 88. I think in the. Do you remember when everyone wrote Jedi 20 years ago in the census? Great days. Gareth Ladd, I was talking to Serv recently, complained that about the army being stuck in World War II. They said, wow. I said, wow, they've modernised then. Some captain. And Di says, I don't like the very idea of ethnicity. I'm a cultural creature, Welsh and Londoner. I'm denying my British culture since Brexit, to be honest. Well, I mean, culture's kind of, you could argue that it's quite an ephemeral thing. Is it real? Is it real? Is it a real thing? Is it a real phenomenon? I would argue that it is. I would say that, people feel culturally British or English or French or Spanish or Guyanan. It's tied in with language. It's tied in with the pageantry of your country and your flag and all that kind of stuff. And I get it to a certain extent. I really do. Everyone wants to feel like they belong somewhere. The thing is with people like me, though, is I feel like I belong with nomads. Like, I don't really have that same glue holding me to any particular place on earth. The only reason why I'm here in the UK at the moment is because my partner and my family. My dad obviously can't travel anymore. But all things being equal, if, heaven forfend, everyone in my life just walked out or went away or whatever, I wouldn't have any problem with leaving Britain for good. Like, it wouldn't bother me because all the British things that I actually like, I can still kind of access on the internet. But I don't have that pull. I've got the migratory gene in me, whatever it is. And so yeah, when it comes to sort of do you feel British? I'm like, well, maybe in the past I used to, but yeah, like our friend in the chat there, since Brexit, it's been a bit embarrassing, hasn't it? Anyway, Aqua Dave, anyone privileged who overcame an addiction is seen as brave. Anyone who wasn't privileged and did the same will always be seen as a criminal. Yeah. If you get a heroin addiction and you've got no money and you end up on the street, that's it. You might end up kicking the addiction. You might end up off the street, but you're never going to be living in a bloody palace. You're never going to be living in some kind of, Georgian townhouse in Notting Hill anytime soon. It's just not going to happen. And if it does, obviously it's front page news. It was Richard Bacon, left Blue Peter, turned up on The Big Breakfast, yeah. With Johnny Vaughan, also privately educated. And what was the name of the woman that did the show with Johnny Vaughan after Gabby Roslin, also privately educated, left? Tamsin, Tanya, I've forgotten what her name was now. But yeah, she went to private schools. Like, literally, have a look on privateschoolmafia.com. It is staggering. Alex French, I'm still struggling with alcoholism. I'm really sorry to hear that, Alex. It's good that you acknowledge that you do have a problem. I lost a friend a few years ago who never acknowledged that he had a problem when he totally had a problem. And so, that is such a huge step towards that. And Alex, I hope you're surrounded by people who understand what that's like and how difficult it is for you, and don't do daft things like say, hey, let's go to the pub, hey, let's have a party, and then ask you if you want to have a drink, and then you say no, and then they try and force the drink on you. They're like, go on. Yeah, Alex, I appreciate the fact that it is bloody difficult in this society and the way people are in this society to say no all the time, because it's so embedded in the way things are done in this country. But yeah, good on you for admitting it, and I hope that all the best, mate, with whatever treatment works for you. And I'm not going to say, oh, this worked for a friend of mine, because it might not work for you. Denise Van Outen, yes, that's for Vendetta. That's the name, Denise Van Outen. I was nearly there, wasn't I? What was I saying? Tamsin Outhwaite. No. It was Denise Van Outen who went to private school. Tara Palmer Tompkinson, she also went to private school. And Tamsin Outhwaite, I don't know if she went to private school. She sounds like she did. But I can't remember off the top of my head. A bit more liberal on Channel 4. You think, wouldn't you? Terry Christian's got a few things to say about that. Let's get Tezza on the show. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do the papers because I'm 8 minutes over time. But James O'Brien's not doing his show this week, so I'm going to very quickly run through the papers. First of all, we've got the Times here. People in swimming costumes getting very cold. Move criminals to open prisons. Ministers urge low security jails to tackle overcrowding, says government advisor. I agree. If you're in for a non-violent crime, I don't see why you have to be banged up in a cell. Like, no, it's fine. I went to a prison years ago in Bolivia, the San Pedro prison, and it was mad. Like, you could come and go. Like, the prisoners you could go in and have a tour of the prison led by a prisoner. You would just pay the prisoner and he'll show you around the prison. And I went in, and there were kids having a five-a-side football match in the courtyard of the prison because the prisoners had their family there, and they could pay the guards like a bit of money and go out for the weekend. You know, have a Friday night out on the town and then come back in the morning and go back into the prison. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers, but it seemed to work. NHS at risk of paralysis while it waits for Streeting reform plan. That doesn't surprise me. Wes Streeting is not my favourite person in the world at the moment. 6 extra weeks of heat peril this year. Wow, 6 weeks. That is mad. That's because of global warming. A new Quango every week since Labour victory. And Daily Mail trying to stick it to Labour. We don't like Labour. We don't like Labour. Yeah. And then we've got the disgusting, horrible face of Nigel Farage there. Absolute goon, talking bollocks about hunting. He's there with his pint on the Boxing Day hunt, and he is a Boxing Day. Word that rhymes with hunt, that begins with C. Tory war with Farage over fake members. Apparently he's claimed all these members of refuck, but they've got no evidence to back it up. Just Stop Oil hypocrites ship T-shirts 4,000 miles. So Daily Express sticking one to Just Stop Oil. How dare they be concerned about the future of the planet? Russian military accused of shooting down Azerbaijan passenger aircraft. A serious news story there, where Russia now gone to war with what? Azerbaijan? You're going to go after Azerbaijan now, are you, Russia? What the? We've got the iPaper here. Badenoch accuses Farage of fakery over claims that Reform UK has overtaken Tories. Yes. So the Tories and Refuck are fighting each other, which I quite like. And then there was this horrible story of stabbing carnage in where was it? And I think it was in the heart. What's it called? The home counties, Buckinghamshire. It was in Buckinghamshire. And then we got this story here from the Star. U.S. hurricanes to send wild storms and chilling temps here in the new year. Gale force UK. Well, actually, it's global warming that's sending those gale force winds because there's more energy in the system. I see Sue Ellen Braverman is covering James OB next week. Oh, Jesus Christ, damn it. Well, maybe I'll do some extra bumper shows next week. Maybe I'll do a 3-hour show. What do you reckon? Twixmas show covering the James O'Brien hour, so you don't have to go and listen to Braverman. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. That's really kind of you. Right. Nothing says man of the people in a Ponzi outfit, a fox hunt and a bodyguard detail. Well, yes, exactly. Capitan. Same here. My mates are very supportive, says Di. No pressure from them. I've become comfortable with going down the pub and drinking 0% beer. Being aggressively honest seems to help. Yeah, it does, Di. And do you know what else helps as well? And I found this because, I like to drink. The 0% beer. It's bloody brilliant. I know back in my day we had like Caliber, which was disgusting. But now 0% beer, especially Guinness 0%, it's better than the real stuff. It's better than stuff with alcohol in. And it allows you to sit with your mates and have a beer, but it's a non-alcoholic beer, which you couldn't do before. And pubs and clubs and things would drive me up the wall because I worked for like 4 years in bars and stuff in Manchester and in Liverpool. And I knew how much it cost for a pint of Coca-Cola. It was about 2p. That's how much it cost the bar, because you got a box of post-mix, which is the syrup, and then that gets mixed up with the CO2. You got a big bottle of CO2, which lasts 6 months, lasts a very long time. And some bars don't even bother putting the CO2 in by the looks of things. And you squirt it into the glass and you go, that'll be £2.30, please. And that's like £2.28 of just pure profit. Like, how is that? What? How is it more expensive to buy a half of Coke than a half of lager? There's a whole process with lager, or even like a half of ale, which is even a more difficult process than making lager. That always just blew my mind. So, and also, you can't sit there all night drinking Coca-Cola. Even the diet stuff, it's just too sickly sweet. You can't. Well, I can't anyway. I could drink 5 pints of beer, even zero alcohol beer. I could drink 5 pints of beer. I could not drink 5 pints of Coke in an evening. I just couldn't. By the way, if I did drink 5 pints, I'd be off me bloody tits. But I'm not one of these people who go, takes me 17 pints to get drunk. I'm like, okay, great. What do you want? An award for costing loads more than me to get drunk? Okay. That's why coffee shops do well. It's mostly water. Yeah. Most of the money for the drink goes to the landlord in rent, says Katrina. Yeah, I know, I get that. Zero Guinness winner, says Captain. Yeah, really, really recommend it for people who are just trying not to drink. But also, like, a lot of the times, if I go out, especially in like Durham, we've got shit public transport here, and the taxis cost a fortune. So if I want to drive to town and have a night out, it's really nice to be able to just have a beer, because you can just nurse that for forever without any alcohol in it. 17 pints to get drunk sounds kind of a waste of money, says Siskin Edge. Yes, it does. And you know what doesn't help? Like Hollywood movies, the way alcohol is portrayed in Hollywood movies. First of all, when you see people like drinking from a bottle of spirits, if you did that in real life, you would Amy Winehouse. That's all I can say, right? You can't do it. You will pass out or you might die from drinking neat from a bottle of scotch or whiskey or scotch is whiskey, right? Whiskey or vodka or rum or whatever. Drinking neat is not a good idea for your body, because it's poison. It shuts your body down. And the other thing they do in movies is that, apart from Leaving Las Vegas, in most cases when someone's got a problem with alcohol in a movie, they tend to overcome it kind of easily. It's all like, a little stint in rehab and they're done. Whereas in real life, it's a lot more difficult than that, and people relapse time and time again. Look at Matthew Perry. I mean, it wasn't alcohol for him; it was ketamine. But he tried to help so many other people, and he did help so many people overcome their addictions, and he could never overcome his. And it's why we need to have sympathy and support, and it's one of the reasons why I think that drugs should be legalized, because move from the idea that people who take drugs are criminals to move to the idea that they're addicted and need help, that they should be seen as patients. They should be seen as people who, especially if they say, I want help getting off this stuff. I don't want to be addicted to it anymore. I think there should be things in place to help them, instead of, oh my God, he's got drugs on him. Quick, put him in jail. Put him in an overcrowded jail and ruin any of his life chances to, get back on his feet. Blue Badger, when I was younger, my friends and I didn't understand alcoholics. We thought they were always hammered, like my older brother at the time. Now we know better, and he's more mature. I don't think he's dry. Yeah, Blue Badger, it's not that simple. Well, it's like when I was a kid, like I always thought that if someone took their own life, sorry to get really heavy here this morning, but I always thought that would be the most selfish thing that anyone could ever possibly do, because of the devastation that it puts up amongst their family, their friends, everyone. When someone takes their own life, it's like a murder, but they've murdered themselves. It's in any friendship group, in any family, it's like a nuclear bomb going off. And it wasn't until I lost one of my friends when I was in my late 20s that I actually realised that he wasn't thinking straight. He wasn't thinking like, I'm going to do this and it's going to upset lots of people. Because at the time he was in a dark place and he could not get out of it. He wasn't thinking of everybody else. So I've matured a lot in my attitude towards that now. And again, people who struggle with addiction, people who struggle with mental health, they need help. They need support. This is my empathy coming out, because we need to work together as a society and help each other out as best we can. And it's really, really unhelpful when you've got people who are born rich, who have everything handed to them on a silver fucking tray, who come out with stuff like, oh, well, darling, I managed to overcome that. It was easy. Or, giving parenting advice or whatever these people do, these bloody vampires. They go, oh, well, I did it. I could do it. Anyone could do it. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that daddy paid for an extensive stint at the Priory, but, yeah, well done, mate. I'll say this: if you or I was caught in a police sting trying to sell 50 grand's worth of cocaine, right, to a police officer, to a person, police officer who's pretending to be a drug dealer, whatever, drug person, 50 grand's worth of cocaine, I'm pretty sure that would be it for our career in a top flight entertainment industry. Do you know what I mean? But if you went to private school like Johnny Vaughan did, and don't get me wrong, Johnny Vaughan's a really lovely guy. I met him when I did Movie Watch a few times. I was a reviewer on Movie Watch, back in the 90s. And I was on the last ever episode. They brought back their favourite reviewers for the last episode of season 6 of Movie Watch, and I was one of the 4 reviewers, and we gave Good Will Hunting 40 out of 40 because it was the last episode. I mean, it's a pretty good movie. Anyway, moving on. I gave 2 movies 10 out of 10 when I was doing Movie Watch. One of them was LA Confidential, which I still stand by, and the other was Good Will Hunting. And I feel like now Good Will Hunting probably 8, 9, but solid 10 still. Years later, solid 10 for LA Confidential. Anyway, I digress. But the idea that you or I could get away with something like that and then still go on to present the Big Breakfast and Movie Watch and everything else just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. And the most shocking one, which was pointed out to me by Terry Christian, because he's got obviously a huge chip on his shoulder about all this as well, as well as me, coming from, he comes from a very working class background. I don't pretend to be working class. I am not. I'm very middle class. I want to stress that now. And I'm not a ruddy fingered son of the soil or whatever. That's not me. Terry Christian, he comes from a very working class background. And he was telling me about Emma Bartlet. Emma Bartlet, is it? Who used to present Newsnight? Her parents paid for her posh private education through the exploitation and rape of women, because they trafficked women to around Manchester, and forced them to work at their brothels in Manchester, and they used the money for that to pay for Emma's education. Now, in a way, not Emma's fault. But in another way, she got ahead of you and ahead of me and ahead of everyone else from the proceeds of one of the most horrific crimes that people can commit, committed by her parents, both of whom ended up going to jail for their crimes. I think both of them, at least her dad did. But yeah, it's one rule for the rich and one rule for the rest of us. Emily Mateless. No, it wasn't Emily. It was Emma Bartlet. Poor people are drunks. Rich people are bon viveurs. Yeah. Acro Dave, indeed. Haven't been able to watch Good Will Hunting again since Robin. Yeah. Oh. Robin Williams, eh? That's when it all started going wrong. People say David Bowie, but no. It was actually Robin Williams. I get annoyed at politicians playing down mental health illness as someone who has attempted suicide and been sectioned. It gets so upsetting when politicians say it's just down to day-to-day life. Sarah, I'm very sorry that happened to you. And what I can say is, thank you for still being here. Thank you, genuinely. But also, fuck those knobheads for making out that it's easy. It's simple because they found it simple. It's simple. And those people are the most annoying people in the fucking world because they have no empathy. They can't see that someone else who's dyslexic can look at a piece of paper and it is more difficult for them. It is more difficult for them. It's easy for that. It's easy. Someone with ADHD who has, executive functioning dysfunctionality like myself, people go, oh, no, it's easy. It's easy. You just make a video. You just write it and you make it. And I'm like, it's not that simple for me. Doing the dishes is a big production number. Like, I can't just do the dishes and they're done. Everything gets built in my head up to a big thing, this big task that needs to be done. And then because I get either choice paralysis or just paralysis, like I can't do the thing that needs to be done. And it's a source of endless shame and frustration for me. And I've been waiting now for years to get my bloody ADHD diagnosis, so maybe I could get some help with it so I can actually structure my life in a way that would be beneficial to me and the people around me, I guess. But yeah, that help has not been forthcoming under the Tory government. Now, finally, we've got a Labour government. I've got a date next month for an ADHD assessment. And oh my God, like I tick all the boxes. I went to every country in the world without flying. I mean, come on. How could someone who doesn't have ADHD do that? How could they? Anyway, moving on. There are no rules for the rich who make the rules. Rules are made for the rest of us by them. Yeah, indeed. Okay, listen, I'm going to have to get going. Robin Williams came to Q8 completely unscripted. Hilariously funny guy. R.I.P. Yeah, he was absolutely. LA Confidential is Spacey as well. Yeah, I know it's problematic that it's got Kevin Spacey in it, but there's lots of fantastic movies that have problematic people in. Usually Kevin Spacey. Seven is fantastic. Glenn Ross. That also has Alec Baldwin in, another problematic man. Yeah, it's just the way it is, I guess. I'm going to be back at 1:00 with Phil Morehouse for an episode of the Agenda. Am I actually? No, I don't think I am. I think I'm going to the Metro Centre. Oh shit! I'm gonna have to get in touch with Phil. I just thought about that. Yeah. Okay. So no episode of the Agenda today. Sorry. It's Christmas. Go spend time with the kids. We promised them to go out today. So sorry about no episode of the Agenda. See, I'm doing the program for the day in my head as I'm talking to you, as I'm broadcasting live. But there definitely will be an episode of the Friday Night Social tonight at 9:30. So please join us for that. You are very welcome to do so. And Captain says LA Confidential is a classic. It's a fantastic film. It is a very, very good film. And it's also got two people who were neighbours in it, which is nice. Anyway, so thanks very much for watching. I'll see you at 9:30 tonight. Sorry, we're not going to be doing the Agenda. We might, if I can, I'll talk to Phil and see if we can do an Agenda like later on in the day, maybe at like 6:00 or something. So look out for that. I'll put a thing up online on the thing. So hit the bell notification icon if you're subscribed to the channel, and you'll get a little notification when we're going to go live. So bye for now, and I'll see you very soon. Take care, and until next time, give us a like on the way out. Give us a like, and I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.